husband's favorite. So much so that one Sunday he had me take Hiebel home to Xerox so he could sing it all the time. Now, you have to understand, he had a horrible voice. He couldn't sing Happy Birthday in tune. So every once in a while he'd start singing this to me. I said, oh, you're so sweet. So, I know that in my heart.
Good morning. It's good to be here and to be with you. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. This fellowship is pluralism, interdependence in this the service that might include pluralism. Please see anybody who's new or relatively new and wants to introduce themselves. Feel free to stand up and just tell us your name, and that would be great.
Hi there, I'm Lily. I've just lived in Oconee County for about a year now, and this is my first church in a really long time.
Great. Thank you, Lily. Welcome.
My name is Glenn Peterson, and I live in Central, and this is also my first church in a long time.
Thank you, Glenn.
And as anyone who's been here before knows, after church we have a social time in the social room, which is straight down the hall. There's coffee, there's treats, and all are welcome. I have the following announcements, and if you flip over to the back side of your order of service, you will see that there are more listed on it. The first one is Sunday, August 31st. Anyone who's a recent visitor and would like to make a deeper connection with UUFC, please join Reverend Holly and others for conversation and sharing. You can either RSVP at admin@uufc.org, or you can just come. And if you have questions, please and I don't see her today, but Karen York is the person involved in setting that up. There's also the Where I'm From Poetry Project, and there's information on this in the social hall. Everyone in the fellowship is encouraged, and this includes friends and visitors, to join the Where I'm From Poetry Project. It was introduced at the August 3rd service. It takes us back to our formative years of our childhood, and the sharing can help bring everyone together. So there's more information back there if you're interested. And finally, next week is our annual water communion and in-gathering. If you can, please remember to bring your water. If you don't bring it, we also will have some, and it's a kickoff for the new year. And a lot of UU churches do this. So.
Thank you, Leslie. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Holly Brown. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the minister here at UUFC. I'm so glad to see you this morning. There's the UUFC camp out this weekend, so I was worried that it would be even more sparse, so I'm delighted to have each and every one of you that are here. And before I get started with our opening words, I want to name something important, kind of as a content warning for this particular service. And it can be a difficult topic to discuss, so please do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And that might include stepping out if you need to check in after the service with me, or finding a space to talk. And if you'd like to check in on a different day, please feel free to reach out to me and connect, or connect with a friend, family member, or therapist. And so the topic today is based on a discussion that I had with Jim Knoll about the auction sermon topic that he would like to hear about. And he requested that the focus be on our understanding of death, mortality, and the choices that we can make about how we die. And while it can be a challenging topic, I think it's really important for all of us to think about. And I'm really glad that Jim brought it to me so that I could share it with you. And so with that said, again, do whatever you need to do during this service. Some of the topics will be a little bit heavy, and it also can be deeply meaningful. So I want to start out by our opening words by Gretchen Haley, "The Longing for Something More." Every little thing that breaks your heart is welcome here. We'll make space for it. Give it its due and praise for the wanting it represents, the longing for something more, some healing hope that remains, not yet. We promise no magic, no making it all better, but we offer only the circle of trust, this human community that remembers, though imperfectly, that sings and prays, though sometimes awkwardly, this gathering that loves, though not yet enough. We're still practicing, after all, still learning, still in need of help and partners, still becoming able to receive all of the beauty and all of the gifts that we each bring. Come, let us worship together. In the spirit of worshiping together, I invite you to rise in body, mind, or spirit, wherever you are, to join in singing number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
And since we have no children here today, I'm inviting someone young at heart, Mary Orem, to help me by lighting the chalice. And please follow or read with me the fellowship's affirmation that is in your order of service. We gather together in a spirit of love with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
Good morning. My name is Jo Gilliard. My pronouns are she, her, and I am standing in today for our RE instructor, Karen. It's her Sunday off, so I will be doing our Time for All Ages this morning. And today's story is Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge by Mim Fox and illustrated by Julie Vivis. There was once a small boy called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and what's more, he wasn't very old either. His house was next door to an old people's home, and he knew all the people who lived there. He liked Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. He listened to Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. He played with Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. He ran errands for Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. He admired Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. But his favorite person of all was Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper, because she had 4 names, just like he did. He called her Miss Nancy and told her all his secrets. One day, Wilfred Gordon heard his mother and father talking about Miss Nancy. "Poor old thing," said his mother. "Why is she a poor old thing?" asked Wilfred Gordon. "Because she's lost her memory," said his father. "It isn't surprising," said his mother. "After all, she is 96. "What's a memory?" asked Wilfred Gordon. He was always asking questions. "It's something you remember," said his father. But Wilfred Gordon wanted to know more, so he called on Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something warm, my child, something warm." He called on Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something from long ago, me lad, something from long ago." He called on Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you cry, my boy, something that makes you cry." He called on Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. "What's a memory that makes you laugh?" He called on Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something as precious as gold, young man, something as precious as gold." So Wilfred Gordon went home again to look for memories for Miss Nancy because she had lost her own. He looked for the shoe box full of shells he had found long ago last summer and put them gently in a basket. He found the puppet on strings, which always made everyone laugh, and he put that in a basket too. He remembered with sadness the medal which his grandfather had given him, and he placed it gently next to the shells. Next, he found his football, which was as precious as gold, and last of all, on his way to Miss Nancy's, he went into the hen house and took a fresh, warm egg from under a hen. Then Wilfred Gordon called on Miss Nancy and gave her each thing one by one. "What a dear, strange child to bring me all these wonderful things," thought Miss Nancy. Then she started to remember. She held the warm egg and told Wilfred Gordon about the tiny speckled blue eggs she had once found in a bird's nest in her aunt's garden. She put a shell to her ear and remembered going to the beach by tram long ago and how hot she had felt in her button-up boots. She touched the medal and talked sadly of the big brother she had loved, who had gone to the war and never returned. She smiled at the puppet on strings and remembered the one she had shown to her sister and how she had laughed with a mouth full of porridge. She bounced the football to Wilfred Gordon and remembered the day she had met him and all the secrets they had told. And the two of them smiled and smiled because Miss Nancy's memory had been found again by a small boy who wasn't very old either.
This is the time we set aside for the offering in order to give towards the financial vitality of this community. Also, 25% of the undesignated collection each week goes to an organization in the local community that we partner with. For the month of August, we are partnering with Habitat for Humanity. Each week, we also collect perishable food for the Clemson Community Cares Food Bank. You may also go to UUFC website and use the donate button to give. There you will see options for paying your pledge and donating towards the organizations that we partner with. And we thank you for your generosity.
Thank you again for your generosity. And that generosity expands into care for this community, generosity of spirit, with the sharing of our joys and concerns each week. Sorry, I seem to have a little bit of a frog in my throat. But this is a time that's an important way of sharing in community so that we know that we are not alone. So I've asked Leslie to place a stone into this vessel representing our shared community for each one of the joys and concerns shared. And we have quite a few this morning. So I have one from Meg Williamson that I'm very concerned about our red maple tree that was pruned incorrectly. I will provide tender, loving care to enable it to thrive again. Thank you. Elaine Fredendall shares her thanks to Kathy and Gordon Crane for hosting the UU Campout once again. And Petra Bear shares a joy in remembering Melissa Berger Afagola today. It's the 1-year anniversary of her passing, and I miss her, as do I, and do many of us. Have a joy from Alan Goldsmith, an unsolicited ad for one of our own. Holly Ulbrich has a terrific blog called Purple Sage 41, no space between the letters. And she writes regularly about subjects as diverse as economics, politics, spirituality, culture, women's rights, the environment, and more. It's free to read and definitely worth subscribing if you aren't already familiar with it. Thank you, Alan. And Alan also shares a concern that Governor McMaster has pledged to send 200 National Guardsmen to Washington, D.C., saying that South Carolina is proud to stand with the president as he works to restore law and order to our nation's capital. Let's tell the governor that he should speak for himself and how ashamed so many of us are that our state is considering an immigrant detention center modeled after Florida's. He put alligator Alcatraz, but it's more than that. South Carolina should be defending our nation's guiding values, not assisting in their destruction. And Ellen Few shares a joy that Jim is 78 today, and he's in the social hall, so happy birthday, Jim. And Sue Knoll's children and grandchildren are wishing Sue a happy 88th birthday tomorrow. Yes, happy birthday. And Nancy Lemaster shares a concern that a former member of UUFC, Lucy Pearson Bales, died on Wednesday in Mutz, Indiana. No details are available at this time. And Martha Alexander likes to offer a remembrance, which is why she's dressed as she is today, and her votes for women suffrage. 105 years ago, on August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified, giving most but not all women the right to vote. On August 26, 1920, the amendment was certified by the Secretary of State. Let us remember with gratitude the brave suffragettes who held meetings, spoke truth to power, and marched in the streets, often with signs advocating for votes for women. Thank you. Thank you. And yesterday was a memorial service, a celebration of life for Martha Hiebel. And many of you were here. A number of folks in the congregation helped support that service yesterday. And so in light of Martha's service, the anniversary of I offer lighting of our candle of memorial this morning. And we'll place one final stone in the bowl for all of those joys and concerns that remain quiet and tender upon our hearts this morning. As we move into a time of prayer and meditation, I want to name that we're doing it a little bit differently this week. The prayer and the music will be woven together, kind of like a zipper style. So I'll read part of the prayer, and then you'll be invited to sing and remain seated for Comfort Me. But there's an important but here. If you're familiar with it in the hymnal, some of the verses are the same. However, there are a couple of changes. Me at intervals. Oh, my soul, at times the challenges I face are too much. Too much illness, too much struggle, too much conflict between family and neighbors, too much suffering in the world, on our screens and out of sight. But we know it's happening, and what shall we do? Can I bear the weight of it all? It is hard to be human, especially a soft-hearted human. Spirit of love, will you comfort me? Together, you're invited to sing the words to comfort me. Oh, my soul, at times I feel alone, isolated, even if there are people around me. It can be hard to share my inner world with others or let them help me. But when we sing together, I feel others' presence, and I know that together we can have enough caring to go around for everyone, including me. Gathered in community, will you sing with me? Oh, my soul, sometimes I am just weary. When it's hard to get out of bed in the dark morning, hard to face difficult tasks, hard to lift my foot or open my heart. I know I may need rest and fortitude. I may need to refill the well within me. Rest is a gift that I will carry to allow myself to have when I need it. My needs are important, and I deserve rest. Oh, my soul, can you rest? When I have been nourished with song, I grow stronger. When I have felt the presence of caring community around me, I feel more able to use my own power. When I have given my body and spirit the rest they need, I am renewed. And yes, my soul, when it grows light, mercy, the light is growing day by day. Like a green growing thing, I am ready to rise. In power and beauty, I return to the world and bring to it my love and joy. We'll sing Rise With Me, followed by Comfort Me one more time.
The reading is an excerpt of choice at the end by Elaine McCardle. As anyone who has sat with the dying will tell you, there are good deaths and there are bad deaths. In 2008, Jim Powell, a longtime member of First Unitarian Church of Portland, Oregon, was having a very hard death. Riddled with cancer, Powell laid in excruciating pain with open wounds, and he was eager to hasten his end, but he would not do it. His situation was ironic. Powell was among a small group of Unitarian Universalists at his church who helped launch the modern Death with Dignity movement in the 1990s, when they wrote and got Oregon voters to approve the nation's first aid in dying law, which allows terminally ill adults to hasten their deaths with a physician-prescribed medication. Powell was a passionate advocate for the right to die and had been at the bedside of others who used the Oregon law when it went into effect in '97. Now, at the age of 82, he was ready to leave his failing body, and he had the medicine in hand. But he was worried that doing so would cause pain to members of his family who did not support Oregon's law, recalled his daughter, Katie Powell, so he continued to endure the agonizing process of having his dressings changed each day. The Reverend Kate Lohr, social justice minister at the First Unitarian Church, implored nurses to leave the bandages in place. At worst, the wounds would become infected, and Powell would die faster, as he hoped. But they could not break medical protocol. Finally, Powell decided to go ahead with taking his own life, and his family all chose to be there, even if they didn't agree with his choice. The family gathered around, and Jim drank the medicine, Lohr recalled. Within 30 seconds, he began to snore. His breathing slowed, and then he stopped breathing. It was very peaceful and very quick. At long last, Powell's death was a good death. Helen Lee's death, too, was good. A congregant at First Unitarian since the 1970s, Lee wanted to avoid putting her children through what she had endured with her own mother's prolonged death from Alzheimer's. In 2012, Lee, a non-smoker, was diagnosed with fatal lung cancer and told doctors that when the time came, she wanted to use the Oregon law. She was a very tenacious person, and the idea of not being able to drive her own life, and now her own death, was something she wanted to avoid, said her daughter, Julia Lee Griffin, who grew up in the congregation. When the two doctors agreed that she had less than 6 months to live, a requirement of the law, Lee found a physician to write the prescription. She had to go outside her own healthcare group, which was connected to the Roman Catholic Church, a strong opponent of aid in dying. Drugs in hand, Lee focused on enjoying her final days until her pain and breathing difficulties were too much. On January 7th, 2014, Lee gathered her family around and in their loving presence took the medicine and died. We were holding each other and holding hands and making our circle around her, and she was leaning against my dad and brother. Her breath came faster and farther apart, and then she was just gone. It was an easing into death, seamless and natural. The way she died was exactly the way she lived. She was making it happen. Before Oregon passed its law nearly 2 decades ago, many terminally ill people faced what they saw as a terrible dilemma: a long and agonizing death or suicide by illegal and often traumatic means. Lohr knew a woman with fatal brain cancer who went alone to a hotel room and shot herself in the head, to the horror of the hotel staff who found her, not to mention her own husband and children. It is so much better when a family is gathered around and they've said all they need to say, said Lohr, and the person can go with dignity.
As I said at the beginning of this service, this topic can be heavy, it can be loaded. I want to mention that there are, in case it's needed, not saying to not cry because tears are holy and sacred, but there are some tissues scattered around that are left after yesterday's service. And I want to name that so often we talk about death when it's already happened, when someone has passed away, when they're no longer with us. And often spoken, as I just did, in somewhat vague terms. Death can be a hard topic, but the one thing about life that makes it worth living is the knowledge that we all are facing death. It is always coming. And that's not to be depressing. It's to remind us that there is beauty in the world, and discussing our mortality can be a way of working through the difficult feelings that can come up, and it can be a way for us to remain grounded. And in relation to the reading that Leslie just shared, there's a question, there's some theology with Unitarian Universalism that I want to lift up. As Unitarian Universalist, there can be a question of what we believe happens when we die. And there's not a one-size-fits-all answer, because we don't all believe exactly the same thing. That's the beauty and complexity of religious pluralism. Some of us come from different cultural or theological backgrounds and carry some of those with us. And there's a little bit of information about this on the UUA website. It says, at the end of life, we offer communities of care and support. We companion dying people and their loved ones through the sad journey of saying goodbye and the long journey of grief. Unitarian Universalist views about afterlife are informed by science and spiritual traditions. Many of us live with the assumption that life does not continue after death, and many of us hold it as an open question, wondering if our minds will have any awareness when we are no longer living. Few of us believe in divine judgment after death. It is in our religious DNA, after all, as Universalist side of our tradition broke with mainstream Christianity by rejecting the idea of eternal damnation. So, what does this mean? It means that we often rely on working through our own understanding of our beliefs, working through our own theology. That pluralism is both beautiful and can at times be complex, because we have to do some soul searching, individually and collectively, to know what is the right fit for us. I had to deal with this some in my Intro to Theology class and in my UU Theologies, plural, class. We're asked to think about our theology around death. And as some of you have heard me say, probably more than once, I came to Unitarian Universalism by way of the covenant of UU pagans. And so a lot of my understanding of death is based in more pagan tradition, earth-centered tradition, but there's also some science involved in there, because energy never ceases to exist. It is transformed. And for me, recognizing the cycles of life and death in nature provide me some understanding and solace around death. Because in a way, we live on. If energy never ceases to exist but is transformed, that must mean that each one of us is transformed. And another way we live on is through the memories of others. We are part of a line from the ancestors that created us to us as we become ancestors and pass on those memories and that love. I've also stated before this idea of the 3 deaths, and I believe it comes from a gentleman named Elkman, but I believe it comes from further back than that as well. The idea is cremated or interred. And the final death comes the last time someone speaks your name. Now, I've wondered, as somebody that does genealogy and worked in history museums, how long does that last? I was recently on vacation and spent time at family property that my great-great-grandfather purchased in the 1930s. His name and my great-great-grandmother's name are on a sign next to the property. We continue to lift them up and honor them by maintaining that piece of property and sharing it with our larger family. I've had the opportunity to meet 4th cousins at times on this property. And recognizing that we continue in the memories and the love of those that we leave behind doesn't offer a way out of our grief. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that the person is still actively with us in the same way. And that can certainly be hard for us to work through. Grief is not a linear thing. It's not a one and done. It is an ongoing aspect of our life. And we don't have a theology that tells us as a whole, some of us may hold this, but that the deceased is in a better place. There's not a heaven that everyone goes to in our understanding. But hopefully it's an end to any suffering that we may be experiencing. As I mentioned, the Universalist understanding of not having damnation, and that we live out our heaven or hell on this earth, that we make what we're doing in our lives count in a different kind of way. It is those of us that are left behind that continue to carry the pain and the grief and relief at times that death came after a period of pain or suffering due to prolonged that Leslie shared. There has been a movement that includes many UUs around Death with Dignity movement. Being able to decide how we leave this world, the opportunity to have autonomy over our own bodies, as well as to confront what it means for us and our families. And to this end, in 1988, the Unitarian Universalist Association passed the General Resolution about the right to die with dignity. And this resolution reflected on how it connects to our principles, our theologies, by stating at the very beginning, quote, guided by our belief as Unitarian Universalist that human life has inherent dignity, which may be compromised when life is extended beyond the will or ability of a person to sustain that dignity, and believing that it is every person's inviolable right to determine in advance the course of action to be taken in the event they are no longer reasonable expectation of recovery from extreme illness or disability. It continues to say near the end of that resolution, the Unitarian Universalists advocate the right to self-determination in dying and the release from civil or criminal penalties to those who, under proper safeguards, act to honor the right of terminally ill patients to select the time of their own death. And be it further resolved that UUs advocate safeguards against abuses by those who would hasten death contrary to an individual's desires. There are a number of reasons that individuals might make the decision to choose medical aid in dying, and there are many reasons that people oppose this option due to religious or cultural-based understanding around death. And there's concern from those with disabilities that the article in UU World also lifts up. It says, quote, some disability rights organizations strongly object to aid in dying. Not dead your worries that it is a slippery slope in which disabled people will be targeted for euthanasia, and its views desire to end life, even among the terminally ill, as suicidal. Other disability rights organizations, such as Disability Rights Legal Center, support aid in dying for the terminally ill, Croomsley said. Now, with all that said, it's important to recognize that this is a very complex issue, but one that a number of you support, and it's not accessible to everyone. However, I was surprised to find that this type of legislation has expanded to 11 states. And there are others that have it as something that they're working towards, although there are also ones that are being advocated against those laws that are already in place. And there are different stipulations by state of what's allowed. Someone that has cancer that has been named as terminal and has no operation, no treatment available to them, may have this option available in those 11 states if they are sound of mind and the doctors confirm that they have 6 months or less to live in some aspects. But someone with Alzheimer's, with an uncertainty of how long they will live, and not necessarily being of sound mind at the time that they can make that decision, don't necessarily have this option available to them. You may remember a number of years ago now that Robin Williams chose to end his own life by suicide following the diagnosis of a particularly aggressive form of Lewy body dementia, and the impact that had on his physical and mental well-being, in addition to his struggles with mental health prior to that. And I must say, on some level, I can understand that after watching my grandmother's progression with Alzheimer's. I can understand why somebody might wish to avoid the advanced stages, because she was bedridden and didn't know who people around her were for the last 2 years of her life. But I know for a fact that even if it had been available in North Carolina, my grandmother wouldn't have chosen such an option as medical aid in ending her life because of her religious beliefs and her care and love for her family. And as anyone makes such choices, as anyone talks about the end of life, whatever that might look like, it is important to have the support of friends and family around us as one makes decisions about how they would like to be treated. And this doesn't just mean medical aid in dying, because again, it's not available everywhere. But it might include considerations for whether you would like to have a do not resuscitate order, whether you would like to refuse surgery, whether you would like to not be kept on life support. And our current culture struggles with talking about some of these medical decisions. It struggles with talking about death. And as somebody that studied history, having put an exhibit together on Victorian mourning practices, historically there have been some very different approaches to how we deal with death. But having these conversations, wrestling with our own mortality and that of those we love around us, can help us define what we would like as far as medical care, who can make those decisions for us when we cannot, and what kind of treatment or how comfortable we wish to be. It allows us to let our loved ones know these things, as well as what we might want for our remains to be honored, whether it's cremation, traditional burial, or green burial, or others. We have a ceremony called copies, and we're going to have an opportunity to talk about that at a workshop following service on September 21st. And it talks about those kinds of decisions, and once signed and notarized can be a legally binding document to help pass along to our loved ones. And recognizing that this isn't necessarily something everybody would like to do in community together, there can also be copies of it shared if you wish to have those conversations more privately or with close family. And again, if you have concerns, pastoral care, spiritual direction, needs, discussion of such topics, please reach out to me. Facing death and mortality might be an inevitable part of life, but we can choose how we end with dignity in our lives and for those around us. Recognizing our interdependence, that we are connected and part of something larger through our communities of care. While it might be difficult, it is not something that we have to face alone. May you know that you are held in this community. May you know that there is support. May you recognize our interdependence and our respect for the dignity of others and ourselves. May it be so. May we make it so, and blessed be. And if you would rise in body, mind, or spirit, wherever you are, to join in singing number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. Go in peace and return in love.
May it be so, and blessed be.